thinking a lot these last couple of days. I'm doing a fast, um, an emergency fast, a 7-day emergency fast for men.
Hmm.
Um, and prophetess Tiffany Montgomery called the fast. Um, which I hate to say her name out loud because people be like, gunning for this young lady, let her be great. But anyway, I don't know if you've seen the YouTube social media wars and things of that sort. And grown men be coming for this young lady's neck. And it's
Really?
unfortunate. And it's unfortunate. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Grown men. And so I think that's another story to for another day. But I think getting into the segment, one of the things that have been on my mind is men in general taking their rightful place. Um, as a woman who's in my 40s, who's single, things of that sort, I've always had people like, why aren't you married? Why don't you have kids? Number one, it's hard out here for people. So no, it's hard out here. And the reality is that the majority of the men aren't in the rightful place. I've heard Miles Monroe say years ago that a person needs to be whole before they get into a relationship. A lot of people, especially young men, are seeking mothers in women who are broken as if her job is to mend you back together. And maybe 1% that will work. But Miles Monroe said that the man needs to be whole and the woman needs to be whole. That whole scripture that, the two will come together and they'll become one. He
Hmm.
says, no, one means wholeness. So they need to be whole first as individuals. And I guess we can talk about what does wholeness look like for a man, a woman, not perfect, not perfection, but whole. And so that when you come together, there's a synergy. When you
Hmm.
come together, you're not dragging each other through the world, or there's one who's carrying all the mental load. Mainly, it's the women of the kids crying up all night, um, paying the bills, going to work, breastfeeding, and the man's just like, I gotta watch my game. What zombies? And I'm just saying, but
Hmm.
yeah. So when we say, for me, I want men to take their place, but I understand in today's society they don't know how. I don't know how to push or get them there. So
Hmm.
I just took like all these personality leadership trait tests, and for the assessment, it says I'm an ID, and every man in the room was like, "You're surely a D. You're surely a D." I am a D because I've always got to take care of stuff because people around me ain't taking care of it. And then the other thing was the Clifton Strengths, which said I was command. And then one of my mentors was like, "Men don't take you well. Men would take me well if they took the rightful place." But anywho, but I'm a woman of one, not many. That's another discussion for another day. So when I say men need to take their place, what are some of the things that come to mind when I say that to you?
Hmm. When uh, when you say that, the first thing that comes to my mind is a leadership role and being in a position to do the two main P's to be able to protect, and provide. Like that's the first thing that comes to mind: leadership and being able to protect and provide in whatever context the guy finds himself in. Um,
Right.
and at least in our society, good old fashioned American society, um, shoot, I find it difficult to be able to do that um, out the gate for a lot of guys. And so
Right.
being able to protecting is the easier one. All you gotta do is just be a little more extra and be able to resort to violence, have that willingness, and you can
Hmm.
come off as being a protector. The providing part is the tough one, and usually, in my observation, when a man is not able to do the provision role, he he falls back onto um, euphemisms, uh, intangible things like this is my role, this is your role. The idea of roles and pressuring women and other guys around to fit into these narratives, that becomes like a priority. Um, and it's to me, it's just something that occurs whenever a guy is not able to fulfill that part
Right.
of the provision, and it sucks. I felt it, and I see other guys doing it too. You know, like a
Yeah.
guy, like I know guys that can't, you know, they have a hard time paying their 50% of the bills when they're mixing with a lady, mixing like living house, like households and stuff like that, and they'll resort to just saying like, "Oh, it's your job to cook and clean and all that stuff like that."
Putting more pressure on the woman
Put more pressure on her,
because
to
their
fulfill the role.
inability, it's for some men, it's their inability to provide and move forward. Maybe because they're playing video games, maybe because they have mom syndrome. They're trying to be cute, they're trying to be seen, they're doing a jig through society opposed to actually putting a strategy together to build.
Hmm.
Building meaning, okay, I'm going to go to school for this amount of time. Number two, this is the kind of job I'm going to get. The expectations, I'll need this much money because if I have this much money, I can, you know, retire my wife. She can be a stay-at-home mom, whatever. But thinking
Hmm.
through those stages opposed to just saying, I want to be in a relationship with somebody. What does that look like? And
Hmm.
so I put in Google needing men to take their rightful place. So AI, this is AI's overview. It says the phrase needing men to take their rightful place often refers to a call for men to assume what is perceived as their intended role in society, particularly within family and religious contexts, which is kind of what you were saying. This perspective frequently emphasizes men's roles as leaders, same thing as you said, protectors, and spiritual guides. It is a theme explored in various religions and cultural contexts, often with a focus on restoring what is seen as a divinely ordained order.
Hmm.
And then it says here's a breakdown of key aspects associated with the idea. There are several of them. I guess one is religious and spiritual context. Let's start there. So, the religious and the spiritual context, it breaks it down into three categories: leadership, spiritual warfare, and restoration of order.
Hmm.
And it pulls a scripture, which I thought was interesting. Timothy 3, chapter 3, verse 16. It is a time now that God is seeking an army of men to take their rightful place in the body of Christ as warriors. Men need to know how to pray, fast, and use the word as soldiers, teaching them to fight the enemy, the unseen thing, to keep what God has given them and will give them. What is your perspective about the hierarchy of a man taking his rightful place from a religious connotation?
From religious connotation. Um, I feel like from there's a concept called the divine masculine, which is, and I don't know if this ties into to a particular religious connotation, but just me spitballing. Um, no matter where you are as a man, no matter what society that you're in, um, no matter what spiritual system you are in, there are aspects of a man that are universal that lead to those protecting, providing, procreating. But how those things flesh out, they are the warrior, the lover, the king, and the sage. Um, if you as a man in that hierarchy, you need to fully fulfill all four of those dimensions. You know, in whatever context you find yourself religiously. You know, you need to be a warrior. To be a warrior means to take proactive action when a need, to be the shield of your society. To be a
Right.
king means to uh, know your domain, have a domain in which that you can say is yours and take ownership of that. And when you take ownership of it, you take responsibility. To be a sage is to know how to manipulate the world around you to cultivate the craft. To be a lover is to be able to engage with people in an uplifting and invested way. Um, that is, and in my observations, I see most men either do the lover or the sage aspect of their masculinity. Me personally, I already know I lean towards the sage. I lean
Hmm.
towards crafting and stuff, and I kind of
Hmm.
delve into my lover a little bit. The
Okay.
warrior and king aspect are very important, and I'm like sucking at it. But that is, I see a lot of guys kind of go down a similar path. So that's the hierarchy. If hopefully I answer your question correctly.
But is it do you think if you're just a lover, if you're just a sage, are you unbalanced? Or
Yes.
is choosing one okay?
I feel like you're unbalanced.
You're
Yeah, you're like you hear those stories about like someone who was deaf, but because they're deaf, they have like extra good like eyesight and like their other senses
yeah.
are increased. That's how I think about it. Like if you just focus on one, or like all of all the other ones are muted, then there's one aspect of you is super heightened. Um, and most people, I believe, live and die with only one or two of those four um, fully realized within them.
Right.
Um, and it's unbalanced. I feel like I like to think the goal is to have all four fully realized
Right.
before you pass.
I think I was talking to my friend the other day and I was saying a man who was having a hard time. And to me, his hard time is easy, but different strokes for different folks.
Hmm.
And I told him, I said, but you're a believer. Like you're a Christian. Like as much stuff as I've gone through, y'all have always seen me get up.
Hmm.
Only how I can get up is because my faith is not in people, it's not in man, but it's in God. And they went to a Christian church and brought me home books authored by a Muslim man.
Hmm.
I was like, interesting. So he was like, oh, this guy came to our church. He was really good. He was very passionate. And I said, oh, okay. If you think about, and I don't know a lot of Muslim men, but stuff that I've seen on TV, these men, the ones that are displayed on social media, they seem legit. They're
Hmm.
focused. They know they know their Quran. They're disciplined. They pray. They work out. They eat. They make sure they eat certain foods.
Hmm.
They've taken their role as leader very seriously, and they have built these fundamental principles in their lives, in their family, in themselves first before they even got a woman, in
Hmm.
themselves, not all, but some of the people that I've been seeing on social media. And when I had listened to these so-called Christian men, I said, if you're a Christian, you just can't go to church just on Sunday. How
Hmm.
often do you pray? And my friend is big on us praying over our meals. Our meals? Okay, great. What about asking God for strategy for your life because you're in a deep, dark depression?
Hmm.
Number two, how often have you read your bylaws? Your Bible is your bylaws. The Quran is their bylaws. It is the thing that governs them.
Hmm.
What is governing you as a man? Not just your emotions,
Hmm.
what is the thing that a man can test and say, okay, I'm going from this level to this level to this level.
Hmm.
What are those things? And so when we say we need men to take their rightful place, number one, they need a relationship with their God, with,
Mhm.
for me as a Christian, with the ultimate God. They need a relationship with Him. They need to be praying. They need to be fasting. They need to be in the Word. What does the Word say about being a man? What does the Word say about praying? What does the Word say about spiritual warfare? What does the Word say about covering your family and protecting your family? What does that look like? And if we don't know, to your point, leaning to Sage, the Bible says, "My people perish because of lack of knowledge." What books are you reading? What podcasts are listening to? And I'm not saying open yourself up to everything,
Mhm.
but go into the direction of where you want to go,
Mhm.
who you want to be, and don't be afraid to go there, because at first it will be lonely. But I'm telling you, when a man taps in, it's very, very lonely. It could be a dark place, but when you come out on the other side, there will be men waiting for you,
Mhm.
because they're ready to take the journey and they didn't have any guidance. You didn't have any, but because you were fearless, not you, you did it with fear. You were just like, I'm diving in.
Mhm.
I know I got to change. I said to him, I said, just clean your room. It's right there. How you
Mhm.
invite a woman into the filth? Hey, and then you wonder why she ain't touching and feeling and living. Hey, it's because it's filthy as hell up in here. Sorry, kids. It's filthy as heck up in here. Clean your room, number one. Get organized, number two. Get your finances together. Budget. I don't care if you make $10 a day. If you rent, if you have a car, insurance, what does that look like from a budget? How much money do you have left over? Stop trying to bring these women into your bed
Mhm.
and you ain't budgeting. That's
Mhm.
big.
And
But
yeah.
those are some of the things that come to mind.
Nah, for real. And starting small from that area, like right now, I have a house that I'm trying to take care of. Honestly, until I had that house, I had no sense of the concept of a domain that is my responsibility. Um, but honestly, like you just said, cleaning your room is your domain. Wherever you're laying your head at night, is your domain. If you working on your body, being able to craft that is you working on your weapon, your sword. That is your warrior aspect. Working, managing your resources. That is the work. That's working with the sage. Being able to cultivate and nurture your relationships. That is the lover aspect. Starting from there and then slowly building up. And to your point, I've definitely seen the Muslim guys that I've met. They seem to be definitely focused on the king and warrior aspect. They seem to be really good at disciplining in that arena. Um, and we should just all learn from each other. Like I try my best to learn from the guys around me. And like you said, once you go down this path, once you take a responsibility for your life and find the little ways that you can strengthen yourself and increase your sovereignty, then you'll find more and more like minded people. It is a lonely path, but it is a worthwhile path, and the fruits of it will fall in your hand.
Right.
Hmm.
That you're right. And I think with Muslim men, the very few I've met, they were very like stoic. They came off as very stoic, very
Hmm.
warrior, very militant, and very prideful in a good way.
Hmm.
Pride in their community, pride in their religion, pride in their God, pride in their family. And I feel like as a Christian woman, as a woman, you would think that would be easy to find a Christian man who is similar to that, and it's very hard, because Christianity, and I'm about to go off on something else. Christianity in America has become watered down. It's become performative and not God centered, God focused. And we wonder why our families are breaking up. We wonder why our children are going to jail, our children are being molested. When you take a man out of the home, like, who your job is to protect your family. Your job is to watch over your family to make sure that nobody's coming in and coming out. Um, and I've seen that also, in my own life growing up. You know, my parents were married. I'm not sure if your parents were married. My parents were married. My dad left shortly sometime in the third grade. Um, and I just remember by the end of third grade, we had experienced a level of hell that we had never experienced before. And I don't think we would have experienced if my dad was in the home. And after that year, I remember telling my mom, like, I don't want nobody watching us. I don't want no men up in this house, in and out. We will watch ourselves. We will cook. We will clean. We will figure it out, and my mom had never remarried since then. And she's had some good men and some horrible men, but I had to vet them as well. As a man coming into a home with a single woman, with a single mother with four children, what you want? So you'd be like, yo, get up out of here, little punk.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so men taking their rightful place. The next thing for uh, Google says family and social roles. So we talk about fathers and husbands. It says a central aspect of the idea is the call of men to embrace their roles as fathers and as husbands, providing guidance, protection, spiritual leadership within the family. The second family and social role is impact and influence, right? There's a strong emphasis on the positive impact men can have on their families and communities when they step into this role, because your parents, as from a child, you are your child's first role model. You are the person who leads and guides them, that shows them the way, gives them the rules and the regulations to this thing called life, as Prince would say. Another thing is the addressing absentee. The concept often highlights the perceived problem of men not fully engaged in their roles, with some interpretation suggesting that this can lead to negative consequences for families and societies. Addressing absenteeism. Any of those things you want to speak about?
I I just watched a video from it was an interview, a guy interviewing some African American men in the early '80s, and he were talking to him about jobs, because these guys are just like working car washing jobs, barely getting by. He and one of the gentlemen were saying, "I need a good job. I need something that I can see myself growing into. I need something that I can see myself taking pride in, and then be able to take care of my take care of myself. And if I can get my hands on that, I could see the next 10 years. I could see myself being called Mr. Johnson instead of being called boy or little guy or something like that." He said, "I could see myself being a husband, but until that happens, I'm just little Mike. I'm
Right.
not going to be Mr. Johnson." So uh, I feel like until a man has the provisions to be able to take care of himself to a sustainable degree, he is going to be lacking. I feel like a guy that is not able to take care of himself, he is uh, he is more likely to abandon his family,
Hmm.
because the notion is like, well, I'm not doing anything here. There's no point for me being here. I feel like that's more likely to happen. The sense of
Hmm.
ownership will not be there if they're not
Right.
even able to take care of themselves. Um, so I feel like that is the first key thing. Um, a man having the provision to adequately take care of himself, and then having have an opportunity and vision to see how to expand from there.
Right.
Because I'll just say from my own personal experience, I entertained starting a family with a lady, and I was at the point in my life where I was able to take care of myself to a decent degree, and then
Hmm.
I tried incorporating her onto what I had already established for myself. And When I tell you that I was overwhelmed, I was like, "Oh, I don't have enough set up here." I was like, and I'm
Right.
not expanding at a significant rate. I didn't plan
Right.
on that, and so not only being able to take care of yourself, but seeing yourself be your domain, being able to expand to incorporate other people of your family. If you can't do that, then there's going to be a whole bunch of stressors, and you are going to falter in the role of husband, father, and God and spiritual guide. Um,
Right.
that make any sense?
Yeah. So the third thing that they talked about is challenging perception. So when you say filter, it says challenging perceptions, equality and complementary. Some interpretations emphasize that men and women have difference but complementary roles, while others advocate for greater equality in various spheres of life. Cultural specificities. Some argue that the traditional understanding of men's roles may be culturally specific and not universally applicable. Personal growth. The idea of taking one's rightful place can also be interpreted as a call for personal growth and development, encouraging men to live their full potential. When we think of like the Jewish community and young men, trying to think of what it's called when they turn 13, the bar mitzvah.
Mm-hmm. The rite of passage.
Yeah, it's a rite of passage. And so, in a lot of other communities, they don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this transition to uh, the bar mitzvah, it says, is a Jewish coming of age ceremony for boys at age 13, marking their transition into adulthood and their
Mm-hmm.
responsibility for observing Jewish laws and traditions. The term bar mitzvah literally means son of the commandment in
Mm-hmm.
in Hebrew. It is a significant milestone in the Jewish boy's life, signifying his becoming a bar mitzvah. That's amazing
Mm-hmm.
because you're giving the young man responsibility now. We're not waiting till they're 18. We're not waiting till they're done with high school and they go to college. We're saying that we're building your kingship now.
Mm-hmm.
You are crossing over from a boy to a man, and here is your roadmap. And I think it's hard for a lot of men to take their rightful place because they have no roadmap. Especially
Mm-hmm.
if you're in a house with a single mother who has several kids and she's trying to work and she's, trying to find love and she's trying to love on the kids. It's just all over the place. And the only roadmap that you have is your emotions. The only roadmap that you have is this chaos and disorder. And not all households, but every man, every boy needs a man to come alongside him. Not a man to be present, but somebody of character,
Mm-hmm.
integrity, and that will give them a roadmap and say, this is the way. And so we have fallen short of that in our society. Um, the
Mm-hmm.
last thing that Google talks about, in the essence, the call for men to take their rightful place is a multifaceted concept that resonates differently within various communities and belief systems. It often involves a return to traditional roles, a commitment to spiritual leadership, and a recognition of positive impact men can have on their families and society while they embrace their perceived divine purpose. So that was good. Okay.
Mm-hmm. But no, I strongly agree. It's something I've been thinking about for years. Is there is no rites of passage um, in our society, and the rites of passage that we have are superficial at best.
Right.
Like I remember coming up, the pretty much the only thing that felt like a rite of passage was have sex, do some drugs, which was like alcohol or cigarettes or weed or something like that, and that was it. That was the extent of it, um, and that's superficial. That doesn't meet the marker. And there's this interview with a man I love his lectures, Joseph Campbell. He talks about rites of passage around the world, and he's talked about this West African tribe who, around the time boys like 13, whenever he starts getting a little, his ego starts getting a little too big, um, they one night they snatch him away from his mother and the women in the community. They take him out into the forest, and all the men are wearing a particular type of mask, scary mask, and they put the boy through a couple little challenges, and ultimately they want the boy to fight these guys in the mask, and they put up a little bit of a fight, but ultimately they have the child fight, and the child win. And when the child wins, they take the mask off of them and they stick it onto the boy, meaning that we represented the world and society. Now you are now a keeper. You are now responsible for the world and society. You are now a bearer of the mask.
Mm-hmm.
It's now upon you to take upon this role.
Right.
And that is something that's echoed through all societies for men. It should be, I should say at least, and it's not echoed. There's no sense of taking on responsibility in our society of anything really. Um, it is a lot of, you ought to do, you ought to go start a family. Start a family for what? What is the underlying meaning? Um, there is, in my, a family, a wife, children, they're supposed to transcend you. And therefore, and just like God is supposed to transcend you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can connect with that idea, I feel like not knowing this information about rites of passage, even not even having a man guide you in your life, if you can understand that God is something beyond you, your children, your wife are something beyond you, and you can connect those things.
Mm-hmm.
It's even subconsciously it can lead you down the right path, but
Right.
that is tough. That is something that's not everyone connects to subconsciously. I definitely see guys do it, but
Yeah, I do believe that people don't connect with it subconsciously. I think that
because if you can connect with
individual,
something sorry, if you can connect with something subconsciously that understand the things that transcend you, you are willing to that's things you're willing to lay your life for, things that
right?
transcend you. Sorry, go ahead. Let's go ahead.
Yeah, and that goes into basically what I'm saying is that as a child, I had to choose who I was gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a man. I wasn't a woman. I was a human being first.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran my life from a young person up until now as a person of character and integrity. Not perfect, but character and integrity. And choosing not to run with the crowds, choosing to do it things alone because I knew in my heart of hearts the things that people were doing over there were wrong. It says in Galatians 1:10, am I now trying to win the favor and approval of men or of God? Am I seeking to please someone? If I were still trying to be popular with men, I would not be a bondservant of Christ. And so, if we are trying to please people and we hear that still small voice, we're discerning that that is not it. But we lean into that because it looks popular, because everybody else is doing it.
Mm-hmm.
We are sinning against our own soul. And that's another podcast for another day. One who sins against their own soul. Because we've all done it. We've
Yes.
all bitten the apple thinking that the grass was greener on the other side. And when we look back, we're like, dag, I messed up. Like I was on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we have to be mindful, especially as men. I'm not a man, so sorry I keep saying, but especially as men, I think men need to be mindful and truly understand what is it that they want
Mm-hmm.
and find the people. If it ain't a physical person, find the resources, go to the library, read books, listen to podcasts, and listen to the internal
Hmm.
that is leading you to what is good, because not that part that's leading you to bad, but what is leading you to what is righteous. And what is righteous may be uncomfortable. What is righteous may cause you to stretch outside of your comfort zone, but for you to take your place as a king, not just in your household, but in your society. As you're walking down the street and the kids are announcing, "Hey, Mr. Albino," you're like, that's a badge of honor when kids properly greet you, because they know that's an indication to you that they're watching you and how you do your walk,
Hmm.
you know and if that is your only contribution in society, is to be a man of character, to be a man of integrity, and you know that these young boys is watching you, they see you not on a street corner selling drugs, they see you ain't bringing these different women in and out of the house, they see you just with one lady, they're like, yeah, I want to be like that when I grow up. That's sharp,
Hmm.
that's hot right there.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so it doesn't have to be this grandiose. And if a man wants a wife, he has to do the mental work. Go to therapy. Don't just go and dump all on the woman. That's She got enough going on. We both all got enough going on. Therapy is not taboo. You're not considered crazy. Therapy is to go and get the tools. So if the first therapist you go and they ain't equipped for you or your situation, and they can't give you the tools that you need, you say, thank you. You shake the dust off and you go and find somebody else. But you don't give up on you.
Hmm.
And so many men get upset that it appears that women are giving up on them. They're not giving up on them. The woman is saying, when you going to fight for you?
Hmm.
When you going to stand in the ring for you? When going to go to bat for you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, so that when we come together, you're like, my mind is clear now. I may be broke, but I got a plan and a vision to move us further. Because a man can't tell a woman to submit and he ain't got no vision. He don't got no plan to move the family forward. Why are we having babies and this man can't move himself forward? But a man with a vision, regardless if he has little, will take his family from the ghetto, and you can look it up, to the promised land. You have people who will come from all across the world with a little knapsack to America. They will come to America with a little knapsack and transcend their family because they are operating in those things of balance. The lover, the sage, and what's the third one?
The warrior and king.
Yeah, the warrior and the king. They may seem beat down, and empty at times, but they ain't wearing it on their sleeves, and they're not trying to be macho. They're like, I gotta stay the course. I gotta stay the path. So I encourage you men to stay the course and stay the path. I know there are great men, there are good men out here, but you gotta tap in. You gotta tap in and discover who you really are. Don't look at everybody else and what they're doing. Don't look at the car. What I told you, I feel like everybody got money but me. Don't look at the cars and the money and the houses. Start with being a person of character and integrity. Start dressing the part. Dress your best when you don't feel like it. Wash up. Get clean. I think you were telling me, was it Jordan? Not Jordan Peterson. He's one of them. What's the guy who passed away?
Oh shoot.
Kevin Samuels.
Yeah, Kevin Samuels.
Yeah, so he was big into hygiene for the men as well as for the
Hmm.
women. And clean your room. Clean your room. Start budgeting. Get your house together. Imagine the house that you want to live in, that for you, your wife, and your kid, what does it look like? What does it feel like when you come into your castle? Whatever apartment or efficiency that you live in, I need you to treat it like it's the royal palace. Go down to Family Dollar, go get you some fluffy pillows, throw a little blanket, get you some little scented candles, and get it popping. Set your atmosphere. But men, we need you to take your rightful place, and it starts in the small things. Those who are Christian, I don't know what your background is. Go and read the owner's manual, the Bible, your guide. Um, I'm hoping that this needs to probably turn into a series. So we'll probably be back because we'll probably be thinking about other things that we want to talk about.
For
Um,
sure, for sure.
all right. So we thank you all for coming out. Press that record button, press like or share, and all that gravy stuff. And we'll be back. Talk to you
Mhm.
soon. Bye.
Take care.